Hello. Today I'll be doing a review of basic algebra or pre-algebra. First thing I'm going to talk about is evaluating expressions and using formulas. So, for number one, 5x divided by 2x plus y, evaluate at x equals 6 and y equals 2. So all it wants us to do is plug in the numbers. So we would have, and whenever I plug stuff in I like to use parentheses, unless it's by itself. So we have 5 times 6 divided by parentheses 2 times 6 plus y is 2. Alright, so we're using order of operations, or please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, or PEMDAS. Now the reason I write multiplication and division and addition and subtraction above each other is because it doesn't really matter what order you do them in, so just do it in order of how it comes in the problem. So 5 times 6 is 30, divided by, remember to do everything in parentheses first, so we have 2 times 6 is 12 plus 2, which is 14. 30 divided by 14, we can rewrite as this, 30 divided by 14, and reduce this. Divide by 2 divided by 2, we would get 15 over 7. So that's that one. This division symbol is the same as the division bar, or fraction. Next one. We have 3 times, parentheses, m is 7, plus 2n, or 2 times 0, divided by m is 7. So here we get, parentheses first, we have 2 times 0, that's 0, so that's going to go away. 3 times 7 divided by 7. Now some people will see the 7s will just kind of cancel out of here. 7 divided by 7 is 1. Remember, you are allowed to do it in any order, but let's just do an order. We have 3 times 7 is 21, divided by 7, which would be 3. Next one, bracket 5. Parenthesis, r plus s is 1 plus 2. If we're just adding something, you don't have to use parentheses around it. Squared, so we have bracket 5 times 3 squared, parentheses first, order of operations, squared, equals 15 squared. 15 times 15 is 225. And then the last one. Find the area and circumference of a circle radius 7. Alright, well, it's good to know equations when you're doing algebra. The area of a circle has the equation A equals pi, which is about 3.14, r squared. The circumference, C, that's the length around a circle, is d, diameter, times pi. And we know our radius is 7. So for a circle, our radius is 7, so our diameter is another 7. So the diameter here would be 14, 7 plus 7. So we plug it in, A equals pi times 7 squared. Well, 7 squared is just 49, because squared means multiply by itself, 7 times 7. So really, area is just 49 pi. And you can multiply 49 times 3.14, but you can also just leave it like this. So we'll just leave it. Same thing here. We have circumference equals, diameter is, remember, 7 plus 7, twice the radius. Diameter equals 2 times the radius, which is 14, so 14 pi. Or 14 times 3.14. Those are our answers for those. Alright, next I'll be talking about basic operations, which is just adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing regular numbers. So first, say we have something like -3 minus 9. Alright, now if you really struggle with these, it's best to just draw a number line to see what you're doing. And put one of the numbers on it, -3, and you're minusing 9. So you're going further negative, right? Because this is 0. So you're pretty much adding the numbers together. So when you add two numbers with the same sign, you add them. 3 and 9 make 12, and it's going to be negative, so -12. Here, when you have a fraction, plus or minus a fraction, you need a common denominator. So we do need a common denominator for this one. But you also need to know when you add a negative number, it's the same as minusing. So that's all we have to think of here. Subtract the two numbers when you add a negative. Common denominator, 8 and 5 both go into 40, so we multiply by 5 here. But if you do it to the bottom, you have to do it to the top. And an 8 over here. So this becomes 15 over 40 minus 16 over 40, which winds up being 15 minus 16. That's -1 over 40. So that would be our answer for that one. Now say we have 3.7 minus 4.2. You could just think of the distance between the numbers, which is not a lot here. But if you don't know how to do it, it's best just to subtract them like you usually would. Now we have 4.2 minus, and that's negative 3.7. What you're going to do is you're going to subtract like normal. 2 minus 7 you can't do, so you have to borrow 1 from the 4. That'll become a 3. That becomes a 12, right? So really here you have 12 minus 7, which is 5. The decimal drops, and 3 minus 3, that's going to go away. But remember, our higher one was negative, so our answer is going to be negative. So the answer for this one is -0.5, or -1/2. But usually if they ask you with decimals, they want a decimal for an answer. Here, multiplying, you have to line up the decimals when you're adding and subtracting, but when you're multiplying, you don't have to line up the decimals. 3.5 times 8, we know 1 is negative, 8 is negative, so our answer is going to be negative in the end. Then just multiply like normal. 5 times 8 is 40. 8 times 3 is 24, plus 4 is 28. And since there's one decimal place here, you move the decimal one time. So the answer is -28.0, or just 28. Same thing, multiplying decimals. We have 1.9 times 4.3. 3 times 9 is 27. 3 times 1 plus 2 is 5. When you multiply the second number, you need a placeholder. 4 times 9 is 36. 4 times 1 is 4, plus 3 is 7. And then you add these up. 7 and 0 is 7. 5 and 6 is 11. Carry 1. 1, 7 is 8. And you have 1, 2 decimal places. So this is going to be 8.17. -15 divided by -3. Two negatives when you're multiplying or dividing make a positive. 15 divided by 3 is 5. That one's not bad. When you have a fraction times the number, which is also a fraction because you could make it one. We have a negative times a negative. We know that's going to be a positive. And this is the same as 8 over 1. So we have 2 times 8. You multiply straight across. 2 times 8 is 16 over 9 times 1 is 9. And you can't reduce that because they have nothing in common. So you move on. Last one. We have a fraction divided by a fraction. This is important to know because you use it in algebra. You want to keep, change, flip. That's a good way of remembering it. If you divide by a fraction, you multiply by the reciprocal. So the reciprocal of 2/3 is 3/2. So we have 4/7 times 3/2. You can reduce here, but I'm going to go ahead and multiply straight across like we usually do. Equals 12/14. And we know 2 goes into both of those, so we can divide both of these by 2. So we get 6/7 for this one. Okay, next, some PEMDAS problems, or order of operations, parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, addition, and subtraction. Remember, it doesn't matter which order you do multiplication and division, or addition and subtraction. But parentheses always first, so let's begin with that. 2 minus 3 for this first one is -1. Cubed means multiply it with itself 3 times. Minus 5 times the absolute value of 2 minus 4 is -2. So the absolute value of -2 is going to wind up to be 2. Over. Down at the bottom, we don't have any parentheses, so we can start with the exponent. 7 minus 2 times 5 squared is 5 times 5 is 25. So we continue on. Any exponents, anything separated by addition and subtraction, you could do. -1 cubed is -1, because -1 times -1 times -1. 3 negatives make a negative. Then we have -5 times just 2, right? This is 2 because absolute value makes it positive. So we have -10 over 7 minus 50, which equals -11 over -43. And 2 negatives make a positive. So our answer is just 11 over 43. Next, we have 43 minus -9 plus 2 squared plus 18 divided by 6 times -2. Parentheses first. So we have 43 minus, this is -9 plus 2 is -7 squared. Whenever you have a line of multiplication and division, just do in order. So here we have 18 divided by 6 is 3 times -2. So we have 43 minus -7 squared, -7 times -7. 2 negatives make a positive, 49. So you kind of ignore that negative. You square the -7, you get 49, then you keep it up front. Plus 3 times -2, positive times a negative is a negative, 3 times 2 is 6. 40, and then do addition and subtraction in order so you don't make any mistakes. 43 minus 49 is -6 minus 6. -6 minus 6 is not 0, it is -12. Because you add them, they have the same signs. Next, we'll be adding like terms. Like terms have the same letters with the same exponents. So up top here gives us 2 polynomials, and we're subtracting them. Since we're minusing this whole thing, we have to distribute the minus. So it's going to go to everything here. So it's essentially just going to flip all our signs. So we can keep this the way it is. 5a squared, there's nothing in front of it, so we don't have to change it. -6a squared. Negative makes a positive, 4a, -2. And add like terms. So we have 5a squared minus 6a squared, that's -1a squared, or just -a squared. Then -4a plus 4a, those actually cancel out. Then 6 minus 2 is plus 4. Next, remember you're looking at the same letters with the same exponents. So look at anything with the same letters and the same exponent. So we have an xy term here. That's going to go with this xy term here. Here we have x squared y. This is x, y squared, not the same thing. Here we do have another x squared y. So this one and this one are like terms. So this one's left out. So add any like terms you have. We have 3xy minus 8xy. That's negative 5. 3 minus 8 is negative 5xy. 6x squared y plus 3x squared y is 9x squared y. And then that we just drop down because there's nothing we can do with it. Alright, next I'll be talking about scientific notation. The only thing you need to know with scientific notation, if it's a small number, like this, you're going to have a negative exponent with your 10. Alright? So here, it's going to be a negative exponent, and we're moving the decimal 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 places. So, and it always goes between the first two regular numbers. So we have 8.7 times 10, and we moved it 6 places, so to the negative 6. Here, it's a large number, so we're going to have a positive exponent. Okay? So we're moving it 3, 6, 9 places between the 2 and the 8 times 10 to the 9th. When you convert to a decimal, the opposite of what we just did, we have 5.08 times 10 to the 6th. That means it's going to be a big number when you're done. So we move the decimal this way to make it a big number. If it's negative, do the exact opposite. So we would be moving it this way to make it a small number. So here we move it 6 places. So it's going to be 5, 0, 8, 0, 0, 0, 0. Moved it 6 places to the right. Here, we're moving it 5 places to the left, so it's going to jump to 3. It's going to move 4 more places, so the decimal is going to be 4 zeros before the 3, 1, 4. Alright, next I'll be talking more about exponents and simplifying exponents. They like to put these on college tests. So, first thing, we are multiplying two polynomials. We want to multiply the regular numbers first, and then deal with the letters. So we have 5 times negative 3. That's negative times a positive is negative 15. 8 to the 7th times 8 to the 9th. When you're multiplying, add the exponents. So it's going to be a to the 16. And b to the negative 8 plus 6, which is negative 2. When you have a negative exponent, you have to flip it. So the b is going to go on the bottom, and it's going to give us our answer. Everything else stays up top. Negative 15, a to the 16 over b. Once you flip it, it becomes positive. All right? Here, a couple ways you could deal with this. You could move the 3 to everything on the inside, but it's easier to deal with the inside first. So that's what we're going to do. First, let's get everything on the inside simplified. So we have 8 over 16, that becomes 1 over 2. X to the 6th divided by x to the 8th. Now you can subtract 6 minus 8, which will give you a negative 2. And then you would flip it to the bottom. So you know it's going to be on the bottom. Or you can think wherever the higher one is, higher one's on the bottom, and then subtract like normal. 8 minus 6, keep it on the bottom. Leaves you with a 2. Here we have y to the 4th over y squared. 4 minus 2 is 2, and the higher one's up top, and it's cubed. So now we can cube it. We do not need this 1. It's unnecessary. When you have an exponent to an exponent, you multiply it. So we have y squared cubed is y to the 6th over, we have regular number cubed, 2 cubed, 2 times 2 times 2 is 8. X squared cubed is x to the 6th. Next, we're going to throw in some scientific notation with it. You don't have to convert these to decimals. That would be ridiculous. So the first thing you want to do is multiply these two numbers. 4.8 times 1.2 multiplying. It's going to turn out to be 576, and the decimal moves 2 places, so it's 5.76. And then we have 10 to the 10th times 10 to the negative 4th, which would be times 10. Add the exponents when you're multiplying, 10 to the 6th. You can convert it to a decimal if you want, which would be moving the decimal places 6 places, making it a bigger number, 5760000. Here, same thing. We're dividing, so we're going to subtract the exponents. 6 divided by 1.5 is 4 times 10 to the 15 minus 10 is 5. And if you want to, move the decimal place 5 places that way. 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 400,000. But that's fine too. Alright, and last, I'll be talking about solving equations. If you can learn how to do all of this stuff, you basically conquered pre-algebra. Alright, so negative 8 plus x equals 6. We're trying to get x by itself. To do that, move everything else on the same side with it. So if we're minusing 8, and we want to get it to the other side, you're going to want to do the opposite and add 8. So x here is 6 plus 8, which is 14. Here, we have x divided by 4 equals negative 3. If you're dividing and you want to get rid of it, multiply to both sides. If you do it to the one side, you have to do it to the other. Those will cancel. So we get x equals negative 3 times 4. Negative times a positive is a negative 12. Here we have a fraction times x equals 9. To get rid of a fraction, you can multiply by the reciprocal. So if we multiply by 4/3 on both sides, that's going to cancel all that out. And you're just left with x equals 9 times 4 divided by 3, or 9 divided by 3 times 4. 9 divided by 3 is 3, times 4 is 12. Now you could multiply straight across 9 over 1 times 4 over 3, but it's easier to think of it that way. Here, two-step equation. Always deal with your adding and subtracting terms first. The 4 is stuck to the x, so we have to move the 1 by doing the opposite, adding 1 both sides. So we have 4x equals 12, and then divide by 4. Divide by 4, that'll give us 3. I'm sorry. Divide by 4 both sides, so x equals 3 for that one. When you're solving equations, you need all the x's together and on a single side. So we need to move the 3x over here, or the 6x over here. It's easier to make it positive, so let's move the 3x over. Since this is positive, we minus 3x to get rid of it. And at the same time, we can get all our other stuff over to this side, so we want to add 10. So therefore, we're canceling out the 3x over here. We're moving it to the other side. We're canceling out the 10 over here. We're moving it over here. So we get 2 equals 6x minus 3x is 3x. And then to solve it, just divide. Divide by 3. Divide by 3. X equals 2/3. Last one. Whenever you have a division bar, you have to think of everything in the top and bottom as stuck together. Can't separate it until you move this first. So since we're dividing by 6, multiply by 6, both sides. So we have x minus 4 equals 60. Then finally add 4 to both sides. So x here equals 64. And that's it for today. Hope you've enjoyed the video.